Let's get into business for the day. We begin with oil prices climbing slightly, but you can see Brent crude is still $64.79, so still under the $70 region. West Texas inching up to $61.31. As always, this is why we put the benchmark for Nigeria, just to let people know where countries need oil prices to be in order to meet their targets. Asia markets also rebounding, early trading. Look at Japan, the Nikkei 225, 5.9% green. But hey, it's temporary because we don't know what's going to happen next. China climbing as well. Kospi, Nifty, also in Australia climbing as well. U.S. markets yesterday were mixed. The Nasdaq did climb. There was something very weird that happened yesterday. There was a false news that was floating around the markets that Trump was thinking of pausing the tariffs, and then it caused the markets to jump. But then it turned out the White House denied it, so the markets now fell. Anyway, Dow, S&P both falling, but the Nasdaq just inching up ever so slightly. Dr. Abati already mentioned this, that Trump has raised the tariff threats on China, and he says if China does not rescind the 34% reciprocal tariffs, he will add another 50% to their tariffs, I think by tomorrow. Today is 8th, right? Yeah. So, but China has responded, and this, as Dr. Abati again said this morning, they said we will fight to the end. That's from their Commerce Ministry. So they are standing to, and I think it's because they've seen the pressure that's coming on Trump from Wall Street and other sides, and so they said they're gonna hang in there. So we'll see who blinks first. Europe has said, okay, zero tariffs, zero for zero tariffs. Elon Musk kind of floated this idea, I think, while he was on a webinar in Italy. They want to prioritize negotiations. They don't want to fight back, but say if they have to, they will. So they are prepping 25% tariffs on some U.S. imports. They've pulled back on bourbon, wine, and dairy because of wine exports from Italy and France in particular. So the 27-nation bloc got together, and there was some dissent. So the Italians are like, no, please, we need to get our alcohol and so on to the Americans. The same thing with the French. But they're saying they're going to, May 16th, December 1st, those are the dates that they're looking at. So they're trying to give as much room as possible for negotiations. Wall Street, meanwhile, we talked about Bill Ackman yesterday, and it looks like he got the ball rolling, because since then, you've now had more voices coming out and saying these tariffs are a mistake. Jamie Dimon of JP Morgan came out yesterday saying it's a mistake, it's going to cause higher tariffs and so on, higher inflation. Ken Griffin, who was an active Trump supporter, donated to his campaign of Citadel, he came out and said it's a mistake, it's going to raise inflation, we need to pull back. Ken Langon, who is the co-founder of Home Depot, although he did endorse Nikki Haley during the election, but he's a big Republican donor, he also came out. In fact, he had a very colorful interview with the Financial Times. He's anyway, I can't use the language he used to describe the tariff formula and so on. And then Larry Fink of BlackRock. Fink actually said he's been speaking to Wall Street business leaders who feel that the U.S. is already in a recession. He says the tariffs are not going to make it work. So there's growing pressure now on President Trump to back off, but he doesn't seem like he's going to do that. Also, we have a bill that's being looked at in the Senate with respect to whether or not they can curb the president's powers to be able to set these tariffs. So on the left, you've got Chuck Grassley, Republican from Iowa. On the right, you've got Maria Cantwell, a Democrat from the state of Washington. And they're saying that this bill, it doesn't look like it's going to pass through. Senate Leader Thune said that he doesn't think it's going to see the light of day. You've got a lot of Republicans in the House that are still very much in line with President Trump. The White House has said that if that bill comes to Trump's desk, he will veto it. And speaking of which, there's a meme that's been floating around online. China is basically mocking the U.S. And the fact that they have higher unit labor costs in America when it comes to manufacturing. Trump wants to bring back U.S. manufacturing, but it's just, I don't know how possible this is going to be. And this meme is essentially using U.S. workers looking tired, looking lazy. You cannot pay American workers to do these menial jobs. That is the issue. That is what China is. So it's been, and look at that, Make America Great Again. So it's been trending on social media. I think it's now over 5 million views. Shout out to Vimbai, who shared it with me. I thought it was a real good meme. And it essentially speaks to the fact that China is far and away the leader in manufacturing. And I just don't know how the U.S. is going to catch up. The U.S. leads in services. The U.S. has a services surplus with the world, software, things like that. I don't know how they're going to catch up. To Nigeria, Minister Adilabu, Minister of Power, has said that the first batch of initial, 3.2 million prepaid meters are going to be arriving this month. Remember, $700 million program with the World Bank. We're trying to get more meters to Nigerians. And so in order for us to be able to get that last mile in terms of connectivity, we have to know how much power people are using. We've got to be able to connect everybody. Until we fill this meter gap, we're still going to have a long way to go. But actually, I know Tope Fashola is coming on later. I'm going to ask him. I don't know if the government should be the one getting these meters. I think we should be just purchasing them ourselves. I think 9:30 a.m. we'll have Tope Fashola, special advisor to the president on economic matters, to talk about that. So I want to extend that conversation with him on the meter issue. But that's our business update for today.
Thank you so much, Rotus. When I shared the meme, when I came across it, it almost sent me back to the Cold War and the role that propaganda played in that. And now we're in this era where everything is digital, social media, everything is online. Of course, we know the debates, the fight around TikTok. I'm sure now Donald Trump will be wondering why he stuck his neck out to keep TikTok in the United States, because this is where China dominates and are able to send their messaging across. So this is obviously AI generated. It's not, but I don't believe it's spontaneous. Yes, people are having fun on social media with the back and forth. I don't think it's spontaneous. I think it's just part of a bigger narrative that's being created as, of course, China and the United States battle it out. I came across a video clip of Barack Obama in 2018 as well, and at that time he was talking about how it was very important to ensure that the United States went ahead with a spirit of reciprocity, excuse me, big English word, where China was concerned. Now, his own philosophy around tariffs was that the poorer nations, the African nations, should be exempt, but that the countries like China, who have reached certain developmental stages, did deserve reciprocal tariffs from the United States. So it's quite interesting to see where we are now, that we have a Donald Trump doing it and Democrats pushing back. Of course, a number of things are different based on Barack Obama's 2018 philosophy on it. But it just always interesting, because we come back to, and I am a student or a graduate of politics, philosophy, and economics. So for me, everything comes down to the philosophy of things, the philosophy of economics and the philosophy of politics. So with the philosophy around tariffs, the conversation being had now is, is trade a zero-sum game? Or is it a positive-sum game? So Donald Trump obviously views trade as a zero-sum game. There's a winner, there's a loser. Whereas popular globalization opinion says that trade is a positive-sum game.
Of course.
Everybody can gain, everybody can win. And I think for the global south, this is time for us to really kind of just introspect and look at whether our trade relations have truly been a positive-sum game. We're always talking about our failure to beneficate, to develop. We were laughing at Governor Peter Mbah talking about the downstream, midstream, upstream of agriculture. But in essence, we're talking about value addition. What have we really done with African trade? We're now running helter-skelter to diversify, but when we had the window of opportunity to do it, we didn't. So hopefully this can be that window that we can start to look at value addition again.
Okay. What President Trump has done, simply, in terms of his relationship with the rest of the world, is that he has upturned, redefined what reciprocity means. On this program, I had made the point that at the heart of diplomatic relations between states is the issue of reciprocity. But Trump is saying that it's only his way or the highway.
Exactly.
And I cited earlier this morning the example of Vietnam that says it's going to remove all tariffs. There was also Zimbabwe that says, Zimbabwe will remove all tariffs, but Trump says he's adamant. The European Union has proposed 0 for 0 tariffs on specific items. Trump says no. It is only what he wants that the rest of the world must accept. That in itself, is a negation of the basic principle of diplomacy about reciprocity. Now, China, you mentioned China. Now, China has already taken steps to retaliate. Because China, if you go to the economic hub in a place called Yiwu, in China. The attitude is that they think that Trump is just misbehaving because they think that what he's doing will place America at a disadvantage.
Exactly.
You have shown the meme. I was surprised that they've even gone to the social media to show that they are mocking the United States. Now, how has China fought back? In December, they restricted the export of rare earth materials to the United States, right? They imposed tariffs of 34%, which Trump is complaining about. Now, today, they have also devalued the yuan onshore by about 0.7%, which will make it more expensive for American companies doing business in China to have access. Meanwhile, offshore, they did not touch that. And that's why the Commerce Secretary, the Commerce Ministry of China is now saying they are ready to fight
To the end.
America till the very end.
Yeah.
So in other words, what we're seeing is that the trade war has begun and there is an escalation that is going to happen. Trump doesn't think that it's a problem. His Commerce Secretary doesn't think that it is a problem, but the rest of the world thinks it's a problem. Businessmen, either in the United States or elsewhere, are panicking.
Yep.
But they say they will go ahead with it. There's another video by Ronald Reagan, former president.
Yeah.
It's only Trump who thinks that tariff wars can be won. But Reagan says, no, in the interim, you will think that you are winning, but you will kill competition. Businesses in your country will begin to depend on government. And the more they depend on government, the more problems you are likely to have. This was also what happened in the 1930s.
Right.
And I've argued that the tariffs introduced in the 1930s led in part to the Great Depression in the United States.
Yep.
And that's why it makes sense that economists, analysts are already saying that, look, the outcome that Trump is likely to get with this his medicine will be recession, will be inflation, and Federal Reserve has been very quiet because I think they themselves are confused. The other thing is about U.S. Steel. So he has set up a committee for 45 days to review U.S. Steel. Well, U.S. Steel stock has gone up 16%, about $44.49. But we'll see
How things go.
as he continues to behave like a bull in a
In the
China.
China show.
Thank you very much, Reuters.